For some, the end of a marriage is the end of the world.
Would love to have someone to say goodnight to.
She liked married life. She always did. So being single just wasn't for her.
Hi, I'm Calvin.
And sometimes the end of a marriage is just the beginning.
Dad knew that Calvin was a single man.
They balanced each other with him being a little more outgoing where Corinne wasn't.
But when your happy home is really just a house of cards.
Hi, Dave.
Corinne didn't care too much for Dave because Calvin spent so much time with him.
Soon everyone is caught in the wreckage.
I just screamed out, and I said, somebody in this room is going to pay.
And you know who you are!
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. Rochester, Illinois, a small town 3 hours southwest of Chicago, the place kind, devout Corinne Bell calls home. Corinne spends much of her time helping others and loves it.
She worked as a nurse's aide.
The big thing that Corinne did was just taking care of people. That's just something that she enjoyed doing.
Corinne is the mother of 3 boys and used to be a devoted wife.
She had a husband who was in the Navy, and he was gone a lot.
She sacrificed everything for her marriage, but after 12 years, she's all alone.
Well, she took the divorce pretty bad. She wasn't a good thriver, being single. She liked married life. She always did. So being single just wasn't for her.
With 2 children out on their own and another ready to take flight, Corinne is lonely in her empty nest. Still, she keeps herself busy.
Corinne loved to garden. She kept a nice home. The church was very important in Corinne's life. I think that probably got Corinne through on a day-to-day basis.
That and her daily hit of endorphins.
Corinne really liked being fit. She did not flaunt herself. Corinne was ultra modest. She kept herself covered a lot of times from head to toe.
It's not a terrible life, but Corinne yearns for more.
She was just lonesome as a person, and I'm not going to say that kids don't fill a void in your life, but there's another void that you need emotionally besides your family. We had a family gathering, and she was just moping around the house all day long.
What's wrong? Thanks. It's just real hard to be alone at times like this, you know?
She felt like everybody looked like they were happy and in love. They had a partner, and she was just the little lone wolf.
Would love to have someone to say goodnight to. Thank you for the cake. It's pretty.
Corinne's father, Bert, can't bear to see his daughter suffer. So he hatches a plan.
Wow, this smells great. I had no idea you were such a cook.
Oh, no.
Enter 40-year-old Calvin Stout.
Corinne's dad worked at a car dealership here in Owensboro, and Calvin actually worked with her dad.
I just like to make people happy.
Well, it's working, because you know what I really miss is having a home-cooked meal.
He always thought Calvin was a very nice man because, he didn't use foul language, pretty outgoing.
With 2 divorces under his belt, Calvin has the same air of loneliness as Corinne.
I think because he liked Calvin so well, I think he just felt like Calvin and Corinne would be a good mix.
Hey, everybody.
Corinne lives 5 hours away in Illinois, but she does visit often.
Hi, I'm Calvin.
Corinne.
Nice to meet you.
So Dad knew that Calvin was a single man, and he knew he had a single daughter.
Why don't you 2 go and have a seat? This won't be long.
Okay, this way.
And Bert's plan goes off without a hitch.
No, thank you. I'm fine, thanks a lot. You know what? I get it now.
Get what?
Well, I get why your dad invited me here. The only thing missing is a dowry chest and 10 goats. I'm sorry. Are you okay? Yes? Well,
No.
Okay, that's good, because the last thing I need is you choking to death. That would not gain me much favor with your dad.
Well, he was kind of funny in a goofy way. Yeah, they balanced each other, with him being on the goofy side and a little more outgoing, where Corinne wasn't.
Don't make me laugh. It's dangerous.
Okay.
He was giving her attention, which is something that she craved.
Despite the distance, they try to see each other as often as possible.
Calvin had made several trips to Illinois and spent weekends with Corinne. He did dote on her. With him making the effort to come up there and spend time with her, I think that's going to make anybody feel good.
Unlike Corinne's absentee ex-husband, Calvin adores Corinne.
In her first marriage, she was kind of left alone, and this was filling that void that she needed.
And that's more than enough to lure Corinne south.
I believe that they only dated for a few months before Corinne decided to make the move back to Kentucky. When Corinne came to Kentucky, she got a job as a nurse's aide, and then shortly thereafter she was on at the hospital.
But she doesn't move in right away because of her Christian values and beliefs.
No, Corinne did not believe in living together.
Calvin continues to live with his roommate, Dave.
Before Calvin and Corinne started dating, Calvin was living with a friend of his that he'd known for several years before.
Yes, you got it, you got it, you got it!
Dave's an old army buddy of Calvin's, and the pair has been inseparable.
Hey.
Until now.
Hey, darling!
Dave was always there if Calvin, because Calvin had been married several times before, and if Calvin needed a place to stay when he'd been in a fight with one of his previous spouses, that he could go to Dave's and stay there.
But having a roommate can make for some awkward moments.
Oh, my stomach hurts.
Guys, you keep it down, please.
You know, I should go. No, yeah, I should.
No. Look, you know what? There's a way we don't have to do this. We could watch movies anytime we want to. We could get up together every morning if we want to. Can you imagine that?
I am not moving in with you. That is just not right.
Well, I don't mean it that way. Well, put it this way. I'd have to have a little chat with your dad first.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean.
The couple have known each other for less than a year, but each is certain they've found the one.
When you're an older person and you realize that this is the person that you love and you care about, why do you need to spend all this time dating?
I should go.
She was very happy that she was getting married. I don't think I've ever seen Corinne so happy in my life.
Psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser and forensic psychologist Brian Russell wonder if the couple is moving too fast.
When I look at the timeline of Calvin and Corinne's relationship and the fact that a portion of it was long distance, I really think they are moving too quickly. First of all, they both have marriages in the past, and so that raises their chance for the divorce. The more marriages you have, the more likely you are to get divorced.
I think the fact that Corinne seems to feel this pressure to hurry up and get back into a marriage may then be spilling over onto Calvin, where he realizes that, okay, this woman has an expectation that we are going to get married here in the pretty near future, and if I don't buy into that expectation, then she may move on and pick a different person who does seem ready.
But Calvin swears he's both ready and able. The wedding is small, filled with friends and family. That is to say, Corinne's friends and family.
I don't believe that there was anyone there to support Calvin. I do not believe that Dave was at the wedding.
Dave's absence is barely noticed. But as the happy couple build their new life,
It was a good mix, and I believe that those were good times.
Honey?
It's not long before tensions erupt.
There was no way she was gonna let anything happen to this marriage.
After a brief courtship and a mad dash down the aisle, Calvin and Corinne Stout set about building a bright future together.
I was happy for Corinne. Now she was married and she had a man that cared about her, and they were going places and doing things, and they had purchased a home.
And the cornerstone of that new life is their church.
They attended all the different functions at the church together, the potlucks, the ice cream suppers, ladies' days, ornament exchanges. The church was really important in Corinne's life.
They'd go Sunday morning, come home, eat lunch, and then go back on Sunday evening.
Calvin was very involved with the church. He was leading prayer. He was serving communion.
Good morning, brothers and sisters.
He was involved with the men's groups, and he was very well liked by everyone there.
On a hill far away stood an old rugged.
Calvin had a good voice.
For a world of lost sinners was slain. I thought you were all gonna whip out your lighters.
He would always crack funny jokes, even if he was up there leading singing or anything. He would always say something funny and get the congregation laughing. I mean, he was just pretty outgoing at that time.
Calvin fits in well with Corinne's community, but he especially gravitates to her mother and father.
There he is.
So, what do you say? Maybe we should have a Christian rock thing going for the youngsters like yourselves.
They did things on the weekends together, and basically because Dad and Calvin had this good relationship with one another.
House, yeah.
So I believe it was a good mix, and I believe that those were good times.
But the good times don't last. As Calvin's personal life flourishes, his work life as a car detailer falls apart.
Calvin said one day he went to work. He was told by one of the managers there to clean up some stuff in the lot. That wasn't part of what he said his job assignment was. So he went home that night and wrote out his resignation.
Okay, wait. Just. I feel this situation has grown unprofessional and disrespectful, and I refuse to accept such conditions.
He just quit. He said, I had enough, and he just quit.
There's only so much I can put up with. You get that, right? It's demeaning, downright demeaning.
It's okay. I'll try to find some part-time cleaning work or something for the next couple of weeks while you find something. Don't worry.
You don't need to find another job. I'll find something.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Now, here, look.
This drives you crazy. You agree, right?
Hey. We'll be okay.
Okay.
Come on, now. Try to get some sleep. Come on.
But Calvin's impulsive move has drastic consequences.
I just know that she was a little bit upset because he couldn't find a steady full-time job.
Corinne never anticipated when she got in this relationship that she was going to be the sole breadwinner for their family.
Though Calvin may be down on his luck, he comes up with a plan, a mail order business with ex-roommate Dave.
This business he started was kind of a catalog business where he'd go and have people look through a catalog and order things out of it, and he'd get a percentage of the sales.
Dave, so it's very, very simple, okay? What we need to do today, we have to choose what we think people are gonna wanna buy, all right? Then we make up a brochure, deliver that door to door.
You really think people are gonna buy this stuff?
Oh, yeah, you would be surprised what people buy.
They were already doing it before I even knew they even had an idea about doing it.
It's all marketing.
Then that kind of petered out. Then they got into selling vitamins and stuff.
Hey, honey.
But none of the businesses do well.
Hey. What's wrong?
Not selling.
Let's not worry about that, huh? What do you say we go for a walk? We can get some ice cream?
And Dave's constant presence in their house looms large.
Hello, Dave.
Corinne didn't care too much for Dave because Calvin spent so much time with him.
And the bad news just keeps on coming.
Mom and Dad decided to move back to Illinois. That took a toll on her again. Corinne and Calvin had become so close with Mom and Dad because they were doing everything with them. So when Mom and Dad left, again, that left a big hole in Corinne's life.
A hole that Calvin isn't able to fill.
He wasn't the same cut-up Calvin he used to be.
It seemed to just change his attitude about what he was.
Hello?
And the change isn't subtle or gradual.
Bought you something. I saw it and I thought of you.
Corinne had bought Calvin a shirt, and she had took it home to him.
I hate it, actually.
But I thought you'd like it.
Well, I don't.
I'm sorry.
Stop! 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 Stop!
He kind of had a habit of doing things like that, and Corinne spent a lot of time saying she was sorry.
And Calvin's bizarre behavior isn't just limited to private moments.
There were times Corinne would come home for lunch, and Dave would be there.
Hello?
And Calvin would ask her why she was home.
What are you doing here?
Well, it's lunchtime.
Yeah. How nice of you. Look, we're busy. You need to go eat lunch somewhere else, okay? Bye.
And he would basically tell her that she would have to find somewhere else to go and eat her lunch because she was not going to be there at the house.
Now!
Corinne just has a hard time standing up to people. That just wasn't her personality. She wasn't one of those in-your-face kind of people. And so she would head down to the river and have her lunch, and she would just kind of cry, just wonder why.
Corinne was very quiet. I think the reason she didn't want to tell us, I think she was probably thinking she didn't want another marriage to go down the drain. You know, you don't want to tell your family things.
She was complaining about their sex life was totally non-existent anymore. She was very upset with this and with Calvin, and it seemed like it didn't bother him. It didn't matter to him anymore that they weren't in a sexual relationship.
Corinne and Calvin's sex life is gone. And that's oftentimes something that is used to bring a couple together. Even in times of stress, they can bond by not just the sex act, but the intimacy of being close. And so these two now are losing that.
I'm not surprised that Corinne wouldn't talk with her family about the sex problem in her marriage with Calvin, because that is a very intimate, very personal thing to be kept between two spouses and their doctors, if any. But I am a little bit surprised that Corinne is not talking to her family, who always traditionally have been her support system, about the fact that Calvin is behaving increasingly immaturely, less and less like husband and family man material. And I wonder if Corinne isn't feeling a little bit of embarrassment about the fact that she did kind of rush into this marriage.
Despite Calvin's erratic behavior, Corinne remains staunchly committed to her husband.
Honey? Honey?
Corinne, she was a faithful person, and she had already had a bad marriage, and there was no way she was gonna let anything happen to this marriage if she could. She wanted it to work.
Corinne is determined to keep her marriage intact at any cost.
I think they were getting pretty rough.
Do you realize what you're asking me to do here?
But she has no idea how high the price may be.
She said, somebody tried to break into our house.
After Calvin Stout quits his job and his wife Corinne's parents move back to Illinois, the Stout marriage is showing signs of wear.
Corinne was not only working 7 days a week, and she was going to church, and she was maintaining a home, and she was cooking meals. You have a spouse who's basically over here doing nothing.
And the main relationship in Calvin's life seems to be with someone other than his wife.
Dave and Calvin talked online a lot. They discussed the games. They kept up with just the weather. Anything that they could do to stay connected is what it seemed like.
And Corinne is the odd man out.
I think they were getting pretty rough.
As Corinne feels unwelcome in her own home, she also begins to feel unsafe.
What's going on? Did you change the lock?
No. Yes, I changed the lock.
Why?
It was broken. When I got home, I saw that it was broken. Somebody tried to force the door with a pry bar. So I fixed it. I put a new one on, but I don't know. Nothing's gone, though. Everything's there.
Corinne says, she says, somebody tried to break into our house. She says they broke the lock on the back door, and she says, and Calvin had to put a new lock on the door.
Here, let me.
I got it. Hi, Dave. No, it's fine. I'll take care of it.
Corinne laughs off the broken lock as an idle prank, but that and her frustrations with Calvin take a toll.
Hey, Mama. Hi. I just calling to hear your voice.
She was wanting to get moved back to Illinois.
Corinne had wanted to move from Owensboro back to where her sons lived and her family lived.
The idea of being close to Mom and Dad seemed to appeal to her.
And if we move back, maybe Calvin could get a job at the church preaching.
Well, this church it was built by my grandfather about 60 years ago.
It's just all family that attends that church, so Calvin could be the minister in that little church.
Yeah. Oh, he'd love that. I know he would.
We were all excited about it, too. It's like, you know what, that's great. This is family, Calvin's family, Calvin's all involved.
Well, Bert just thought he'd be a good preacher because of the fact that he thought he had a good understanding of the scriptures and because he was not afraid of being up in front of the public.
My dad was excited about that.
But Calvin is not.
I think it would be a perfect opportunity for us to get back on track. I mean, we could live with Mama and Daddy until things are going okay, and you could preach.
You're asking me to leave everything behind. Everything.
Calvin was not interested.
It doesn't work.
Calvin was insistent on staying in the Owensboro area.
You are not working, and you would be with me and my family. I mean, what exactly are you leaving behind? Dave?
Oh.
Calvin.
The move is important to Corinne because it's giving her an opportunity to start fresh and save her marriage. When people run out of options in their mind, they tend to think about drastic solutions. And I think she's remembering back to a time when things were good, when her parents were around before they moved. I think that that's what Corinne thinks as well. And her feeling is if she can move, they can start fresh, they can get rid of Dave, who's in the way, maybe her marriage will get back on track.
I don't see anything getting better in Calvin and Corinne's marriage if they don't make the move or some other drastic move to shake up the status quo, which seems to be going nowhere but downhill.
To sweeten the deal, Corinne takes Calvin on a trip.
Corinne felt that she just needed a break in life. She'd been working hard, and I'm sure Calvin was like, you know what, let's just take this trip, and let's just renew ourselves, and give yourself some time away.
Though money remains tight, the vacation is just the tonic the couple needs.
That trip had rejuvenated their marriage. I don't think I've ever seen the two so in love.
Yeah, we're just so excited, you know. I mean, there's just more opportunities over there.
Despite the second honeymoon, Calvin still remains unconvinced about the move north.
A couple of resumes, and I might...
She was telling me that she had got some resumes in at Illinois, and she said hopefully they could get moved up there and Calvin could work with her dad in the church. And she was really excited about all that.
I got a bite, so I think I'll probably have...
Calvin was just sitting there listening to she and I talk. He had no comments.
I think we should get going.
And she said, so we're just going to go home and I'll see you tonight.
Okay, bye.
At least that's the plan.
Services started at 6. He had went early for a business meeting. I got there a few minutes early, and he walked up there to me.
Sorry, did you see Corinne anywhere?
And I said, well, what was she doing when you left? He said she had gone for a walk. And I said, well, I bet she's fell asleep. He said, yeah, I bet she is sleeping.
Hey, you've reached Corinne. Please leave a message.
Calvin was on his way home. He actually called home to talk to Corinne. She didn't show up for service, and he said it wasn't completely uncommon, but he was calling to see what was going on.
Hey, darling, just wondering where you're at. I'm on my way home, and I'm gonna get us some ice cream, okay? So I'll see you soon. Bye.
So when he gets home, he's talking to Dave.
I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. Make sure you have a good day.
He hangs up with Dave while he's in the driveway.
I'll talk to you soon, okay?
And that's when he notices that the back door's open, which not completely uncommon.
Corinne? Corinne, are you home? Corinne!
When we arrived, of course, the officers had already secured the scene. She's face down, which is automatically, you wonder, okay, if something has happened to this person, if they did not die on their own, did somebody place them in this position?
It's not just the body that shocks the police.
Whenever you come in, you find somebody that is dead, if they're naked and you think it's a possible homicide, you start to wonder if there was some type of other sexual assault involved. Well, why was a person naked? Maybe somebody came and surprised her while she was in the shower that wasn't expecting her to be home and actually tried to steal something. But one of the evidence guys got in the shower, checked to see if there was anything, and even took the towel to see if he could get any moisture or anything, and it was basically dry.
Although most of the house appears pristine, the bedroom has been torn apart.
Mattress had been pulled over, drawers were pulled out.
It doesn't take much detective work to realize that this death is no accident.
It appeared that she could have been strangled with different things within the house.
Thought about, well, whoever tried to break in must have got in.
And that person could still be out there.
There was somebody in the area earlier that day. It was a white male.
Corinne Stout is found dead, face down and naked. It looks like she's been the victim of a brutal sexual assault. Crime scene investigators take stock of the scene as detectives turn to husband Calvin for answers.
It's uncomfortable for the person who's just lost their spouse, but these are the crucial moments of the investigation.
Take your time. Just whenever you're ready.
We got home from church and had lunch. And at about 4:30, I went back to church. I had a meeting.
Calvin starts to tell us, he tells us about his day. He goes through the whole Sunday.
She was supposed to join me later on for service. Did you see Corinne anywhere? But she didn't. On my way home, I called her. but it went straight to voicemail. I did stop to buy ice cream. When I got home, the back door was open, but we do that sometimes. We leave it open, so that didn't strike me as being odd. When I went into the house, I found Corinne lying on the floor.
Corinne! Oh my God!
With her face down.
Corinne! Corinne, are you okay? Come on. Yes. I just got home. My wife is not breathing. Her face is all red. She has no pulse. She's lying on the floor.
I took her pulse. There was no pulse. She wasn't breathing. Her arms were up.
Some of the stuff that, as Calvin was during the interview, it seemed like he was just uncertain of things he was saying.
Was anything taken?
I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe her rings, maybe some money. I don't know.
It wasn't that he was giving us facts. It was that he was almost kind of questioning what he said to at points.
I don't know. I think I need a lawyer. I'd like that.
After Calvin lawyers up, all investigators get from him is stony silence. But in that silence, they start reviewing the facts.
The room stuff seemed staged, and it didn't appear that anybody was actually ransacking the room to look for property or anything.
Nothing indicated somebody had made any type of forced entry. We actually do the DNA swabs of fingerprints or of fingernails and anything else on her body and check for any type of foreign DNA for her or anything through the house.
The only DNA is from the Stouts and their friends and family.
And there was nothing to indicate on her that she had fought anyone or had any other DNA on her body.
While the crime scene delivers no leads, Corinne's neighbors do.
There was somebody in the area earlier that day. It was a white male, late teens, early 20s, and they gave a description, somebody gave a physical description of him that they thought it might have been.
It's not much to go on, but it's the strongest lead police have.
Yeah.
Until the coroner drops a bombshell.
Calvin said she was alive when he left for church that evening, and when he came home, there she was dead on the floor. But the coroner said she'd been dead for several hours.
That means rigor mortis had long set in before you made that 911. All right, thanks.
Suddenly, the police aren't dealing with a stoic widower. And they're not the only ones who've reached this conclusion.
It just does not make sense.
The first few days, we were getting suspicious because the burglary aspect of it wasn't adding up. There was a lot of inconsistencies. They said that she had just taken a shower and she was naked in the living room. Well, first off, we all know how modest she is, and she wouldn't be walking around the house naked.
You just knew that some things had kind of gone awry in their marriage a little bit. Don't you always think it's a spouse anyway first? I mean, that's just who you automatically think of.
Those were kind of like, ding, 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 that's a red flag.
Okay, I'll say it. You killed her.
This isn't a burglary. This is Calvin.
Not everyone agrees.
Calvin went up there to stay with Mom and Dad the whole time that the funeral was being planned, because the funeral and her burial was going to be up there in Illinois. So here this killer is in our parents' home as if nothing happened. I'm sure it was difficult for Dad to believe that Calvin could do something like this because he thought Calvin hung the moon.
Corinne's father introduced Calvin and Corinne. And so I think in this case particularly, Corinne's father may be motivated to want to believe in Calvin's innocence, because if he entertains the possibility that Calvin murdered Corinne, then there may be a rush of tremendous guilt associated with that about having introduced the two of them.
And also, let's not forget that she wasn't giving them all of the facts about what was going on in their relationship. Well, I'm not surprised at all that her parents are sitting in the side of innocence. The other family members may have more information or may not have as much belief in them as a couple. They might be looking at the actual facts and circumstances because they weren't invested, they didn't fix them up, and so they're more inclined to believe that he's guilty.
Corinne's funeral is held 4 days later.
It was such a shock because how she looked was just beyond belief. Strangling her changed her whole features. She did not look anything like the Corinne I knew. It was just shocking. And Calvin wouldn't go back up to the casket.
He was off in his little room. He was always stood off in a side room. It was the family that was always sitting there, just looking at a dead body that shouldn't be there. So it's hard to have interaction with someone when here's your dead sister and there's the killer. So it was awkward, and at one point, I kind of lost my mind, and I just screamed out.
Someone here is gonna pay for her death, and you know who you are!
And my daughter and my son-in-law grabbed my hand, and they are like, Natalie. And I'm like, I don't care. It's like, I don't care.
After the funeral, I probably pretty well made up my mind that it had to be Calvin. I thought, it's got to be him. I don't know what else could there have been.
The family might suspect Calvin, but police also think he has other secrets he's keeping.
At one point, and then during the investigation, I had my suspicions of their lifestyle between Calvin and Dave.
During the interview process, and we're interviewing people that know Calvin and Dave, a man brought it to our attention that Calvin would sometimes call Dave sweetie, and that it seemed like they had a relationship where Calvin was the dominant person of the relationship.
But is this the only secret Calvin is hiding?
They don't have the smoking gun.
It's like, oh my goodness, what kind of a past does this man have?
After Corinne Stout is strangled to death in her own home, many signs point to her husband, Calvin. But due to a lack of hard evidence, he remains a free man.
We didn't have a weapon there or nothing whatsoever. There was nothing that we could really say that this is why he done it.
They don't have, the smoking gun.
They do have a rumor about Calvin and his very close friend, Dave.
In looking for a motive for Corinne's homicide and knowing how much Dave thought about Calvin, if these two guys are involved in some sort of homosexual relationship, then Corinne was the one thing standing in the way of their relationship. And if they're not going to get divorced, then for her to die is about the only way out.
Was there any kind of conflict between Calvin and his wife? How did you know Calvin?
When I interviewed Dave, he had stated that he had known Calvin for about 15 years.
He talked about the relationship as far as that they were just close friends.
You guys had a close relationship. Intimately close, or?
We weren't lovers, all right? It's not like that.
And when I confronted Dave about it, he got mad. And he denied it and said, no, there's nothing like that whatsoever going on there.
Police do learn plenty from Calvin's old friend.
When did you first meet?
None of it good.
We were cellmates.
They had met in a penitentiary and served time there.
It's like, oh my goodness, what kind of a past does this man have?
What was he in for?
One by one, Calvin's secrets are exposed.
Sex. With an underage male.
He had these charges of sex crimes.
Been in prison once for child molesting.
I was so flabbergasted.
That explains Calvin's reluctance to move.
You're asking me to leave everything behind. Everything.
A registered sex offender, Calvin can't move to Illinois without alerting local authorities, and Corinne in the process.
With sex offender, it kind of affects where you're going to be staying at and everything.
There was so much he had in his life that was secret, that no one knew anything about. The impact of all of this, yes, is that he is a monster.
Meanwhile, Dave's alibi checks out, and his polygraph is clean.
We didn't think Dave was involved in anything. He was very cooperative with us.
Although Dave's interview establishes that Calvin is a liar, fraud, and a sexual predator, it doesn't actually prove that he's a murderer.
Calvin kind of going on his life.
And we couldn't understand why the prosecuting attorney wouldn't bring him in. It's like, you need to charge him.
Then, as Calvin continues to protest his innocence, an anonymous call to local media echoes his claim.
There was a caller that left a message stating that they had killed the wrong person. We went and obtained that copy of that message.
And though police have their suspicions, they need confirmation of just who the caller is.
I'm calling to say that you're making a big mistake. Calvin Stout is innocent. You have to look for someone else.
It was almost like he was shocked, but at the same time, he said, "That's Calvin." I think the pressure was building up on him, and he started making the phone calls.
Now, police finally have enough evidence to make a move.
I presented the case to the grand jury, and an indictment warrant come out for him.
Even as Calvin sits in a jail cell, not everyone is convinced.
We tried to talk with Dad. My dad didn't want to talk about it. In fact, whenever we'd bring things up, he would almost get mad and get really frustrated. It's like, I don't want to talk about this. He really thought that Calvin was still innocent.
Staring down the death penalty, Calvin pleads guilty and gets 20 years.
There were two things I would like to know. And like I said, is why he done it, how he done it, and the motive for him why he done it. The only thing he would ever say was that he was responsible for her death.
The details of Corinne's murder will never be known. But there are some theories.
We think that they had an argument. According to Corinne, he had a kind of a temper.
Did you have to go on and on about moving this morning at church?
I just wanted to tell my friends that we were moving.
Tell your friends. Listen to yourself. We haven't even sold the house yet. And you know what? I don't think it's such a good idea.
Well, I need a change.
What are you talking about? No, this is where we belong. You're asking me to just leave everything I know behind. It's not gonna happen. This is home. This is where we belong.
You know what? I don't care anymore. I am more than happy to move on my own, and you can just stay here unemployed and play house with your sweetie Dave for all I care.
You shut your dirty mouth!
The strangulation thing, it shows it was anger. Something had snapped.
Once Corinne is dead, Calvin stages the burglary. No one knows why Calvin stripped Corinne naked.
it infuriated me that Calvin would leave her lying there naked, because Corinne was an ultra-modest woman, and she kept herself clothed. And to have been left like that, to me, was just stripping Corinne of all of... Okay, this is where I lose it. Because I feel like he was stripping her of her dignity.
Why was she left naked? I think she was left naked for the same reason that he staged a robbery. I think he was trying to set it up like it was a thief who possibly tried to take sexual advantage of her.
I think what sociopaths do in the course of murdering somebody and trying to deflect blame from themselves is all about that. It's all about self-preservation. So I don't think Calvin probably was thinking anything about, let's degrade the victim or anything like that. I think he was probably thinking about how can I create more different other plausible possibilities for how this happened than me being involved in it.
I think it was a rage killing. He has a history of impulsive, aggressive behaviors. He is a child sex offender. He's been to jail. This is a guy who doesn't walk around with much of a conscience.
In 2016, Calvin dies of heart problems in prison. It's a fate that brings a sense of justice to Corinne's family.
As a Christian, we're taught that you are to forgive. And I know that as a person, that's how I should be. But it was just like a wave of relief. That's like, he's gone. He's never gonna get out of prison. He's gone.